Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. There's a new virus outbreak in China and it has the world on edge. Cases are being reported in other countries too, including in India. It's not technically a new virus, but we don't know if it is a new strain. As always, China has not shared data, but we are seeing health advisories and recommendations from various governments. Should you be concerned? Is this a repeat of 2020? We'll bring you the full story. In Canada, it is the end of the road for Justin Trudeau. He is set to step down as Prime Minister, according to reports. In the UK, Elon Musk is backing a new leader for the Reform Party, throwing his friend Nigel Farage under the bus. In Florida, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Malone flew down to meet Donald Trump. We'll tell you what this was about. Also, how Bangladesh is cozying up to Pakistan, buying missiles and joining military training programs. How China is poking India again with new counties in Ladakh and a major dam near the border. Did former French President Nicolas Sarkozy take money from Libyan dictator Gaddafi? He's facing trial over these allegations. Why India is siding with the Taliban over airstrikes in Afghan territory? What is Saudi Arabia's new date-based cola? Can it take on the global giants? And should alcohol come with cancer warning labels? We'll discuss all this and more. The headlines first. North Korea fires a ballistic missile. It coincides with the US Secretary of State's visit to South Korea. Antony Blinken warns that Pyongyang and Moscow are working closely on space technology. This is North Korea's first ballistic missile launch in 2025. Its previous launch was in November last year. In India, Maoists blow up a police vehicle in Chhattisgarh. At least 8 security personnel and a driver have been killed. The forces came under attack while returning after their first anti-Naxal operation this year. Union Home Minister Amit Shah reacts to the incident, promises to end Naxalism in India by March 2026. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar meets the US National Security Advisor. They discussed ways to deepen bilateral cooperation, covering a range of areas including critical technology and maritime security. Jake Sullivan's trip is the last high-profile visit to India by the outgoing Biden administration. Terrorists attack a military base in northeastern Nigeria, killing at least 6 soldiers. The attackers are said to be linked to the Islamic State terror group. They launched a pre-dawn attack in trucks and on motorcycles and set fire to the military base along with many army vehicles. And Nepal suspends helicopters in the Everest region. This comes amid protests by locals who are angry at the environmental impact and the loss of income from trekkers. Helicopters reduce the 2-week-long trek to the Everest base camp to just a day. More than 50,000 tourists visit the region every year. Last week, we told you about a new virus outbreak in China. Over the weekend, more reports have come in. The virus has spread beyond China. It is not a new disease. It is not a new virus. Yet the world is nervous because it feels like déjà vu. This is exactly how it played out 5 years back. We were all putting on our masks. Experts and celebrities were teaching us how to wash our hands properly. Social distancing was a life-saving strategy, because a virus from Wuhan in China had spread across the globe and led to total shutdown. And now, China is dealing with another virus outbreak. It is called HMPV, the human metapneumovirus. It's not as dangerous as the Wuhan virus, but experts are recommending the very same precautions as more cases are being reported from other parts of Asia, including Malaysia, Hong Kong, and even India. We don't have the latest numbers from other places, but we can tell you that India has 3 confirmed cases. All 3 are infants. 2 cases were detected in Bengaluru, which is India's IT hub. The third was found in Ahmedabad. the capital of the western state of Gujarat. It is not clear how these children got sick. None of them has a flying history. These children have not travelled anywhere and yet they tested positive. How did that happen? Because, like I said, HMPV is not a new virus. It has been around for decades. The first case was officially reported in the year 2001 in the Netherlands. That's where HMPV was first identified. And since then, scientists have seen a pattern. They say an HMPV outbreak is quite common during winter. It's quite similar to the flu. In fact, the symptoms are almost the same. Patients with HMPV experience cold-like symptoms like a runny nose or a cough and a sore throat. They could even develop a fever in extreme cases. The fact is, most children get HMPV before they turn 5. That is what doctors say. It is that common. Then why is this year's outbreak raising an alarm? Because of the scale, also because it's happening in China, which is infamous for hiding more than it shares. So the world is worried if there's more to the story. Also, like I said, the caseload in China is pretty high. We've shown you these pictures before. These are from Chinese hospitals. They appear packed. Patients are waiting for treatment in masks. Some are walking around with IV lines. These are believed to be HMPV patients. I must repeat, we've not been able to confirm this independently, but these videos are strikingly similar to what we saw during the pandemic. During the Wuhan virus outbreak 5 years back, China downplayed it. And now it is doing the same with HMPV. How many patients are in hospital? How many of them are serious? How widespread is China's outbreak? Is this a new strain of the old virus? We don't know. China has not released any data whatsoever. All we know is that cases are rising in northern China. In fact, Beijing did release a statement, but it does not even refer to HMPV. It is quite generic and vague. China says respiratory infections are common during winter and that this year's caseload is small. Even if that's true, the world deserves transparency. China must share the data it has, even if this is a mild outbreak, as they like to put it. Because HMPV targets the most vulnerable parts of our population. Most patients fall in 3 categories: the children, the elderly, and patients with compromised immune systems. Also, the treatment is not straightforward. There are no vaccines or antiviral drugs for HMPV. Patients are simply treated for their symptoms. In severe cases, they may develop complications. It could turn into bronchitis or pneumonia. They may require oxygen support or even a ventilator to survive. Most patients may not develop such a severe infection because this virus has been around for decades, so it is assumed that most of us have some sort of immunity against it. But if the pandemic has taught us anything, it is this: any large outbreak can overwhelm health systems. So vigilance is key. China has asked its citizens to take precautions. Its neighbors Cambodia and Taiwan have stepped up surveillance. In India too, multiple states have issued advisories.
Health experts have clarified that HMPV virus is not a new virus. The health systems and surveillance networks of the country remain vigilant, ensuring the country is ready to respond promptly to any emerging health challenges. There is no reason to worry.
Indian authorities say there is no need for alarm. You just heard from the health minister himself. And the health ministry has issued a statement. It said that they're monitoring the situation. They're also receiving timely updates from the World Health Organization. So far, there has been no major spike in infections. Let's hope it stays that way. No more suspense. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has resigned. He's just announced his decision in Ottawa. It comes after months of criticism from his own party lawmakers. He won't be out immediately, though. Trudeau will stay on until his party finds a new leader. After that, he will step down. In his speech, Trudeau mentioned the party rebellion. He said if he's fighting internal battles, he cannot be the best candidate. He also said another candidate could win the election. Listen in.
So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Trudeau is leading a minority government in Canada. The opposition is plotting to oust him later this month. Plus, his own party wants him gone. The Liberals have around 150 MPs in Parliament, that is the party that he leads. Nearly 50 of them want Trudeau out. 50 MPs from his own party, one-third of his party wants him to step down. On Wednesday, the Liberals have a party meeting scheduled. If he waits till Wednesday, the optics will be bad. It will look like the party forced him out during the meeting, which is why Justin Trudeau is resigning today. So what happens now? Well, Trudeau is not leaving in a flash. He wants to stay on until a new leader is elected. And how long would that take? Between 3 to 4 months. But the Liberals may not have that sort of time. Canada's parliament was supposed to convene later this month, and the opposition had planned a no-confidence vote. But Trudeau is trying to delay it. He has asked Canada's Governor-General to prorogue the upcoming session, basically to suspend it. Chances are that this decision will be challenged in court, but if he succeeds, the parliament will only convene in March and not in January. The idea is to give the Liberals, that is his party, some more time to hold a contest and find the best replacement for Trudeau. Even then, the Liberals will have a hard time. Just look at the poll numbers. Trudeau's Liberal Party is at 21%. The Conservatives are at 44%. That's a massive lead for the opposition party. So good luck to Trudeau's replacement. They'll have maybe 1 month to overcome this lead. But that's all in the future. For now, let's focus on Trudeau's career. Where did things go wrong for him? In 2015, Justin Trudeau shot to global fame. He won Canada's elections in a landslide. At that point, he had everything going for him: youth, a famous surname, and surging popularity. Trudeau was exactly what the media wanted. Vogue called him Canada's politician dreamboat. He announced a cabinet with equal number of men and women. He advocated for minority rights, and he fought for climate action. So naturally, people liked him. But if you look past the activism, one thing becomes quite clear. Justin Trudeau was not a good administrator, nor was he a savvy politician. In 2017, we saw evidence of that. Trudeau and his family vacationed with spiritual leader Aga Khan, but his office kept it a secret. Later, Canada's Ethics Commission pulled up Trudeau. They said he should not have taken the trip. And from there, the honeymoon was over. Trudeau lost his majority in the 2019 general election. He gambled by calling snap polls in 2021. But again, same result. Trudeau was left at the mercy of another party, the NDP, the New Democratic Party, led by Khalistani Jagmeet Singh. This third term hurt Trudeau a lot. At home, his handling of the pandemic came under criticism, especially his vaccine mandates. Anti-vax truckers began protesting on the streets. Justin Trudeau responded by cracking down hard. The same Trudeau had asked India to negotiate with protesting farmers, but at home, he chose violence. And that's just one example of his hypocrisy. The pandemic also saw rising inflation in Canada. It reached more than 8% by mid-2022. And that's when the opposition smelled blood. They blamed the inflation on Trudeau's signature policies, especially his carbon tax. It's a price levied on energy from fossil fuels. Say you install a gas heater at your home, or you fill up your car at the gas station. A fixed amount must be paid as carbon tax. The opposition says this is why prices are rising. Their leader, Pierre Poilievre, is running a campaign around it. He's got T-shirts that say, "Axe the tax." He's also calling the upcoming election the carbon tax election. And how did Trudeau fight it? By finding enemies outside Canada. First was India. In 2023, Justin Trudeau accused New Delhi of murdering a Khalistani in Canada. His name was Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Trudeau gave no evidence or intelligence reports, yet he wanted the world to believe him. It's a strategy as old as politics itself. Failing at home, just blame so-called external forces. And he did the same in late 2024 when Donald Trump won. Trudeau flew down to Florida to meet him. Trump was threatening Canada with tariffs. So Trudeau saw this as an opportunity. He branded himself as a leader who could handle Trump, who could protect Canadian businesses. But Trump, being Trump, began mocking Trudeau. He asked Canada to join the United States, and he called Trudeau governor instead of prime minister. Which brings us to present day. Trudeau has basically run out of tricks to play. He's tried activism, he's tried foreign threats, and he's tried the Trump card. But so far, none of it has worked. So it was really a question of how Trudeau wanted to go, ousted by his own party, ousted by his parliament, or on his own terms. He has chosen the last option. But even that may not save his legacy. Trudeau stands exposed after 10 years in power. He cloaked his poor leadership skills behind woke values and activism. But finally, Canadians have seen through it. The question is, what sort of damage has he already done? Our next story is about Elon Musk, the world's richest man, advisor to incoming US President Donald Trump, and the owner of the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. It's quite the combination, really. Untold wealth, one of the biggest microphones in the world, and the backing of the soon-to-be most powerful person on the planet. Elon Musk has it all. And what has he chosen to do with all of these resources? Apparently, he's trying to shape the world in his image by picking fights with politicians. The latest target of Elon's ire is Nigel Farage, the leader of the Reform UK party, his one-time friend, now turned foe. Musk put out this tweet yesterday saying that Farage did not have what it took to lead the Reform party. Musk even backed another politician to take over the reins at Reform. Farage must have been blindsided because this is what the Reform UK leader was saying on Saturday.
Beside him, he's got Elon, who is a proper hero, who believes in free speech. And free speech doesn't mean you agree with every single word that everyone says, but it means you have a platform and the right to excuse it. We have to have the courage to take the knife to all of it. And I believe that Elon is going to set the mark. He's going to set the mark for all of us in America. I hope and pray that he does. And if he does, it'll give us absolutely the right ideas going ahead.
Farage was talking about his friendship with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. He called Musk a hero, someone to learn from. But in just one day, Musk flipped the script, saying Farage needed to go. The two haven't been seeing eye to eye lately. Musk supports a controversial British figure called Tommy Robinson. Farage does not. And since Farage decided to have a mind of his own, Musk now wants to undermine him. That is the risk, I suppose, of putting your eggs in the billionaire's basket. Farage was showing off his ties to Musk and Trump, hoping that this would win him some votes in the UK, and now he's paying the price. Musk has his own agenda, apparently in every corner of the world. From Britain to Brazil, from Australia, where he called the government fascist, to Germany, where he's accused of meddling in the upcoming election.
The crucial thing is that Mr. Musk has supported a partly right-wing extremist party, and as you can see, is not only acting in this direction in this country. And that is something we not only disagree with, I reject that.
Musk is making enemies in all corners of the globe. He's backing certain parties in various countries, like the Alternative for Germany party in Germany and the Reform party in the UK. But he isn't their friend, as Farage seems to have found out the hard way. Elon Musk wants something from the parties that he's backing, and if they do not deliver, he's happy to throw them under the bus. That means that with Elon's endorsement comes an implicit agreement. You toe his line. Party leaders are no longer free to do what they believe is right. It is Elon Musk calling the shots. Now, I must stress that Musk is doing nothing wrong, technically. He's just exercising his right to free speech. He's perfectly entitled to express his opinion and back whoever he wants to, even in countries where he cannot vote. His fanboys are spread across the globe, so Musk will inevitably end up influencing some votes. He has this influence because of his fame and success, so you can't really fault him for this. Musk has earned his influence, and he paid $44 billion for Twitter. So he definitely shelled out the big bucks for his megaphone. That being said, it can still feel wrong. Why should a billionaire sitting in the US have a say in your country's elections? What gives Elon Musk the right to sway votes? To undermine your chosen candidate, especially if he won't have to live with the consequences afterwards. If you feel this way, sadly, there is not much to do. You can try going on a Musk-free diet. The markets led to Elon Musk's rise, only they can dictate his fall. Until that happens, you can just treat Musk like white noise. This advice is for both his detractors and the politicians getting riled up with his antics. Have you heard of the White House? Of course you have. It has long been the epicenter of American politics, but of late a rival hub has emerged, one that trades marble columns for swaying palms. Welcome to Mar-a-Lago, a sprawling luxury resort in sunny Florida. It is owned by Donald Trump. And in his words, it is not just a resort, it is, as he puts it, the center of the universe. World leaders fly in for exclusive dinners. You can spot tech CEOs here. Elon Musk practically lives in this resort. In some ways, it is Trump's own Oval Office. And this weekend, he had a new guest, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. She flew down to Florida. On the agenda was dinner and diplomacy. They discussed a range of issues, including the case of an Italian journalist who's been detained in Iran. Meloni also watched the premiere of a documentary with Trump. The two leaders dined together, and with that, the visit was over. It lasted for only about 5 hours. But Trump could not hide his admiration. Listen to what he said.
This is very exciting. I'm here with a fantastic woman, the Prime Minister of Italy. She's really taken Europe by storm.
Donald Trump won the US election in November, and since then, this is his second meeting with Giorgia Meloni. The first meeting was in Paris when they attended the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Trump was seen laughing with Meloni. He even called her a real live wire. The two share quite a friendly relationship, evidently, and it's easy to see why. Giorgia Meloni is a natural ally for Donald Trump. Her political rise mirrors his in many ways. They both rely on nationalism. They both support conservative values, and they use it to mobilize their bases. Meloni's government has passed some controversial laws, like cracking down on immigration and punishing those who are seeking surrogacy abroad. Yet she has faced very little resistance. The key to that is avoiding issues that could bring her government down, issues like abortion. 80% of Italians support abortion rights, so Giorgia Meloni steers clear of it. She knows which battles to pick. And her approval ratings are quite strong, which is an impressive feat in Italy's politically volatile climate. Her cabinet is among the longest lasting in the country's history. So how does Giorgia Meloni do it? The answer lies in her political balance. The Italian Prime Minister is tough enough to please her conservative base, but cautious enough to avoid alienating the center. She is a conservative at home, but abroad she's built a reputation as a moderate. She's a fierce supporter of the NATO. She's an ally to Ukraine. She's Europe's most talked about leader and probably the most powerful one too. You see, her counterparts in France and Germany are struggling to keep their governments in power. Meanwhile, Meloni has seized this opportunity to lead. And this is where the plot thickens. In just a few days from now, the Italian Prime Minister will play host to Joe Biden. He's going to Rome. It's the last trip of his presidency. The two leaders will discuss global challenges, from NATO to the war in Ukraine. Now, on the surface, these two meetings could not be more different. The one in Florida, championing the conservative agenda, and the one in Rome, discussing global issues. But for Giorgia Meloni, there are two sides of the same strategy. To Trump, she is a conservative partner in the global nationalist movement. To Biden, she's a moderate who upholds international alliances. It is a delicate balance, but it's something that she has mastered. Malone knows when to be tough, when to be diplomatic, and how to please her base without losing the centre. Her Mar-a-Lago visit may have lasted just a few hours, but it speaks volumes about her politics. A leader who can play both sides of the Atlantic and still keep her eye on the prize. Our next story is about Pakistan and Bangladesh, two countries with a fraught history, and that's putting it mildly, we say. Pakistan once committed genocide in Bangladesh. It killed millions of people. But it seems Dhaka has forgotten all this. It has decided to let bygones be bygones and instead work together with its old overlord. Today's Bangladesh, led by the unelected Mohammad Yunus, is about to welcome Pakistan's foreign minister next month. It is also scheduled to have joint training drills with Pakistani troops. And Dhaka is thinking about buying Pakistani missiles. It's a 180-degree shift in Bangladesh's foreign policy. Our next report has the details.
Pakistani soldiers are about to enter Bangladesh. They will be welcomed there for the first time since 1971, since they committed genocide on that very soil. The new interim government of Bangladesh has lost all sense of history and decided to welcome back its one-time oppressor. The Pakistani soldiers will go to Bangladesh in February, but they won't be the only visitors. Dhaka will welcome Pakistan's foreign minister that month as well. Ishaq Dar is scheduled to visit Bangladesh on or after the 5th of February. Dar was all praise for the current Bangladeshi regime. He said Bangladesh was like a lost brother. But here's how this brother got lost in the first place. Bangladesh and Pakistan were once a single country. What is now Bangladesh was then East Pakistan. There was a clear ethnic split in this greater Pakistan. East Pakistan was majority Bengali, West Pakistan was a mix of cultures, but mostly dominated by Punjabi people. West Pakistan held control over this country, even though the Bengalis in the east were a major ethnic group. Things came to a head during the 1970 general election. The Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won that election. He should have become the Prime Minister of Pakistan, but he was denied. That led to the Bengali-speaking East Pakistan breaking away from the Punjabi-dominated West. This break was not peaceful. Pakistani soldiers tried to quell this liberation struggle. They committed genocide, killing up to 3 million Bengalis. But despite the brutality, Bangladesh gained its freedom. Now, listening to that, do you feel that West Pakistan treated Bangladesh like a brother? It denied Bengali people the prime ministership. It sent in troops to kill millions, not to mention rape and pillage the land. It took Bangladesh decades to recover from all this. But now, Pakistan wants to bury this history, sweep it under the carpet as some sort of trivial dispute between age-old friends. And what's worse, the new Bangladeshi dispensation is complicit in the whitewashing of history. It is cozying up to its one-time oppressor, going as far as to invite Pakistani troops back into their old killing fields, being chummy with the Pakistani government, and even considering arms purchases from them. Bangladesh reportedly wants to buy Abdali short-range ballistic missiles from Pakistan. These have a range of about 400 kilometers. Islamabad won't be worried about selling these to Dhaka. After all, they don't fall in range. There's no danger of Bangladesh turning their own weapons against them. They just get to pocket millions of dollars, courtesy the Bangladeshi taxpayer. And then, Pakistan can sit back and relax, knowing that only India or Myanmar will ever be the targets of those missiles. It's a sad state of affairs. Bangladesh seems to have forgotten its liberation struggle. It has forgotten age-old friends like India, and instead chosen to ally itself with its old tormentor. That is how the unelected Mohammad Yunus regime is reshaping Bangladesh. One can only hope that when polls are eventually held, the people of Bangladesh don't show the same disregard for history as their present leaders.
India and China ended 2024 with hope. The hope of a reset. Both countries had been locked in a standoff since 2020, but in October they agreed to pull back to normalize the border situation. Cut to January, things are not looking so good because China is being China again. In other words, they're poking India again. Look at their latest move in Ladakh. Beijing has set up 2 new counties in the region, Heian County and Hekang County. Both these places include parts of Aksai Chin. Now, Aksai Chin has historically been part of Ladakh and therefore it is Indian land. But in the 1950s, China began encroaching on it. They needed Aksai Chin to connect Tibet and Xinjiang. So Beijing laid claim to it. In the 1962 war, they captured most of Aksai Chin. Even today, China illegally occupies it. And now they are setting up counties there over Indian land. So naturally, New Delhi is furious. The government has lodged an official protest with China. They've also rejected Beijing's claims over Ladakh. Listen to this.
We have never accepted the illegal Chinese occupation of Indian territory in this area. Creation of new counties will neither have a bearing on India's long-standing and consistent position regarding our sovereignty over the area, nor lend legitimacy to China's illegal and forcible occupation of the same. We have lodged a solemn protest with the Chinese side through diplomatic channels on this matter.
And this is not a one-off. China is also building a massive dam in Tibet, pretty close to India's border. Reports say it will be the largest dam in the world. It is being built at a cost of $137 billion. Now, there are 2 problems here. First is the impact on downstream areas in India. That's how a dam works. You can control the water flow to regions downstream. You can flood them or dry them up. In this case, India is downstream. Secondly, China did not inform New Delhi. We're talking about basic protocol here. If you're building a dam, you inform the countries downstream. If you're building the world's largest dam, more so. Yet Beijing did not do that. India learned about the dam from a Chinese media report. So once again, New Delhi lashed out.
We have consistently expressed through expert level as well as diplomatic channels our views and concerns to the Chinese side over mega projects on rivers in their territory. These have been reiterated along with the need for transparency and consultation with downstream countries following the latest report. The Chinese side has been urged to ensure that the interests of downstream states of the Brahmaputra are not harmed by activities in upstream areas.
The timing is also important here. On December 18th, India and China held special talks. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval flew to Beijing. He met China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Beijing was thrilled about the outcomes. They said Doval and Wang had reached a 6-point consensus. They also agreed to resolve all border issues. But on December 25th, Chinese state media announced the mega dam, and on December 27th, the new counties, basically the week after Doval's trip. Coincidence? Not in China. This is how Beijing practices diplomacy. They welcome you warmly, they say what you want to hear, they put you at ease, and then snap, they do something against you. It's a very old Chinese strategy. It's how they keep rivals in check. The question is, how should India respond? Well, New Delhi knows a lot about China's betrayals. Prime Minister Modi has first-hand experience. In 2019, he extended a hand of peace to Xi Jinping. You may remember that famous meeting in Mahabalipuram. The next year, Chinese soldiers attacked India in Galwan Valley. That's China in a nutshell for you. They don't see India as a long-term partner. They see India as a long-term rival, as a challenger to their dominance in Asia. Any talks or reset must account for that thinking. Yes, there are economic benefits to closer ties with China, but they come with political risks. So it's important for India to be alert, to not rush into a reset. And to be fair, New Delhi has done just that. We have seen China pushing for direct flights and visa relaxations, but India has not agreed to such demands yet. It wants the border to be resolved first. Of course, China will keep trying to delay that question. They will provoke India with such counties and dams. It is up to New Delhi to be mindful of the risks. Now let's turn our attention to France, where a historic case is on trial. A case which follows a complex relationship between former President Nicolas Sarkozy and the late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Sarkozy has been accused of receiving money from Gaddafi, some $52 million. It is a record for France. And where did this money go? Apparently in illegal campaign funding for the 2007 election. This case is so mind-boggling that it has been investigated for about 10 years now. So can the courts reach a verdict? And if found guilty, what awaits Sarkozy and the people of France? Here is a report.
The Libyan Case. This is the biggest political financing scandal in modern French history, and the most dreaded trial for Nicolas Sarkozy, the former French president, who served from 2007 to 2012 before retiring from public life in 2017. While he denies them all, Sarkozy faces severe accusations of passive corruption, illegal campaign financing, concealing embezzlement, and criminal association. Sarkozy is alleged to have received $52 million in illegal election campaign funding from the late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, whose brutal rule of 41 years was marked by human rights abuses and terrorism, including the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Scotland in December 1988. Gaddafi was isolated by the international community, but Sarkozy and 12 other people, including 3 former French government ministers, have been accused of conspiring with him in this historic trial. The 3-month trial, which opened today, will hear the allegations, which have the makings of an over-the-top Hollywood movie. The case first emerged in March 2011 when a Libyan news agency made some explosive revelations. They claimed that the Sarkozy entourage met members of the Gaddafi regime in 2005 when Sarkozy was the French Interior Minister, and the two parties forged what's been called the Corruption Pact. The Gaddafi regime delivered suitcases full of cash to Parisian ministry buildings to fund Sarkozy's presidential election campaign, which he won. In an interview, Gaddafi himself said, "It's thanks to us that he reached the presidency. We provided him with the funds that allowed him to win." But the court will examine whether Sarkozy doled out favors to Gaddafi in exchange for this funding. It could have been diplomatic, legal or business favors, because soon after becoming president in 2007, Sarkozy invited Gaddafi for a visit to Paris. He welcomed the Libyan leader with great honors and became the first Western leader to do so. But in 2011, he also became one of the first Western leaders to push for military intervention in Libya. This was during the Arab Spring pro-democracy protests. It helped topple the Gaddafi regime before the dictator was captured by rebels in October 2011 and killed. The trial will seek to detangle this complex relationship between the former French leader and the autocratic Libyan leader and look at a 10-year anti-corruption investigation, which brings with it a dizzying maze of shell companies and contradictory statements. And it comes after Sarkozy's 2 recent court convictions, one for corruption and another for hiding illegal overspending during an election. Last month, Sarkozy made history by being the first French head of state to wear an electronic tag, but this may be the beginning of his troubles. If found guilty in the Libyan case trial, Sarkozy could face up to 10 years in prison, which is bad news for him and for the French voters, who already have low trust in French politics amid the ongoing chaos.
People often say nothing is impossible. It's more optimism than pragmatism, because in life, some things are indeed impossible. But in geopolitics, apparently not. Just look at the statement from India's External Affairs Ministry. It talks about Pakistan's airstrikes on Afghanistan. Let me quote from what it says. "We unequivocally condemn any attack on innocent civilians. It is an old practice of Pakistan to blame its neighbors for its own internal failures. We've also noted the response of an Afghan spokesperson in this regard." Now, first, some context. Pakistan launched airstrikes on Afghan border regions last month. Their target was the TTP, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Now, Islamabad says they killed TTP militants, but the Taliban disputes this. They say that dozens of innocent civilians were killed. some of them children. This is the background to India's statement today. And there are two things to note here. One, India is siding with the Taliban's version of events. You see, Islamabad blames Kabul for the rising TTP threat. They say the Taliban is protecting the TTP. But look at India's statement. India says Pakistan is blaming neighbors for its own failures, which is also what the Taliban say. That's one point to note. Secondly, India says it has noted the response from an Afghan spokesperson. We don't know who they're referring to, but all of the responses last month came from the Taliban regime, a regime that India does not recognize. Who could have imagined this? We're talking about the Taliban here, the same Taliban that was funded and supported by Pakistan, the same Taliban that helped anti-India terrorists, the same Taliban that allowed attacks on Kashmir. Why is India warming up to them? Simply put, pragmatism. The first Taliban regime was a Pakistani proxy. This one seems to be different. They have clashed repeatedly with Pakistan over the border, over the TTP and over bilateral trade. Last month's strike was proof of the tensions. At the same time, Kabul is keen to get support from India. New Delhi has a history of investments in Afghanistan, plus recognition from the world's largest democracy would make a difference. Now, India is not going that far, but we have seen more exchanges. In June 2022, New Delhi reopened its embassy in Kabul. In October, Indian diplomats met the Taliban. In November 2023, the Taliban took control of the Afghan embassy in India. In March 2024, an Indian diplomat met Taliban's foreign minister, and in November, an Indian envoy met their defense minister. So clearly, India is willing to talk, which is why this latest statement is so important. The ministry could have refused to comment on the airstrikes. They could have simply noted the incident. Instead, they backed the Taliban's version of events. Now, just to be clear, this does not mean that India is openly embracing the Taliban or that New Delhi will recognize them. It merely suggests flexibility in India's position, a willingness to engage when it serves our interests. And that is how it should remain, not more, not less. Because India also has a commitment to the Afghan people. They are suffering under the Taliban's rule, especially Afghan women. Look at what they did last week. The Taliban banned windows overlooking women's spaces. They're being erased from public life. Afghan women cannot get jobs. They cannot attend school. They cannot hear music or read. They cannot step out without a veil or male companions. India has a responsibility to speak up for those women, to put pressure on the Taliban. Any engagement with Kabul must factor that in. In the world of fizzy drinks, some names have dominated for decades, like the Coca-Cola and the likes of Coca-Cola and Pepsi. But what happens when culture and newfound ambition collide with an industry that's long ruled by the West? That is the story of Milaf Cola, a new drink released by Saudi Arabia. It's a fizzy soda made exclusively with dates. It claims to be a healthy alternative. And more importantly, it's backed by Riyadh's Vision 2030. So can this date-based cola take on the global heavyweights? Or is it another dream in a glass for the kingdom? Our next report tells you.
The year was 1967. Coca-Cola was put on a boycott list by the Arab League. It had a franchise bottler in Israel and was selling in the country. And this boycott was a punishment for that. The ban lasted till 1991, and that meant Coca-Cola lost on a huge market like West Asia. For years, its competitor PepsiCo made gains, and Coca-Cola has since tried to play catch-up. But in 2025, it has another challenger in the region, Milaf Cola, a fizzy drink made exclusively from dates. It was unveiled at the Riyadh Date Festival. It is being made by Al Madina Heritage Company, which is a subsidiary of the PIF, that's the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. Milaf Cola claims it's a healthy alternative. It's said to be the world's first commercial cola made from dates. Historically, dates have been a staple in West Asian beverages, so Milaf Cola wants to highlight that, and it could soon carve out a niche. There are two reasons for that. First, Western cola brands are facing a growing boycott. That's because of their support or association with Israel since the war began in Gaza. So people in West Asia are looking for alternatives. The second reason is the health factor. Gen Z are ditching sugary drinks like cola and want healthier alternatives. And that gives Milaf Cola a perfect opportunity to capitalize on that. But the question remains, can a fizzy, date-based drink capture the imagination of global taste buds? And perhaps more importantly, why is Saudi Arabia venturing into this carbonated fray? The answer lies in Vision 2030, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's roadmap to diversify the kingdom's economy and move away from its dependence on oil. Vision 2030 isn't just a series of policy initiatives. It's a rebranding exercise for an entire nation. It's glitzy and ambitious. It's full of hypermodern mega projects like NEOM and the Red Sea Global Resort. But beneath the neon-lit veneer is a subtler strategy to position Saudi Arabia as a global player in industries that were once unimaginable for the kingdom, like the cola industry. But while the kingdom's ambition is palpable, the beverage industry is notoriously unforgiving. Coca-Cola and Pepsi have spent decades building their brands. But for Saudi Arabia, this isn't just about selling soda, it's about creating a narrative. Milaf Cola is a symbol of Saudi's new identity. It's a statement to the world that the kingdom is ready to lead in unexpected ways. And perhaps it's a reminder that even in the world of fizzy drinks, the tide can change sometimes as new players seek to fizz up the ladder.
Do you know the leading cause of death the world over? It is not wars. It is not traffic accidents. It is cancer. It accounts for 1 in every 6 deaths. That's at least 8 million deaths every year the world over. And do you know what causes cancer? Can you list the top 3 preventable causes? You may say tobacco, and of course you're right, but the other 2 may shock you. Obesity is one of the leading causes of cancer, and so is alcohol. And tonight we'll talk about this last bit. Alcohol is one of the biggest reasons why people get cancer. 750,000 cancer cases are linked to alcohol. This is the average global number. In India, it is about 62,000 cases. In China, more than 280,000, and in the US, nearly 100,000 cancer cases. In fact, alcohol-caused cancer kills about 20,000 people in the US every year, and their top doctor wants to change this. That's the US Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy. He wants warning labels on alcohol, like the warning labels on cigarette packs. Murthy wants warnings on alcohol bottles that clearly tell consumers about the cancer risks of alcohol consumption. This suggestion may seem drastic, but experts say about time.
I think this has been a long time coming. I think they're just trying to get this information out to the general public that, again, if you're going to drink, you have to be aware that there are health risks associated with it besides the common ones that everyone is familiar with.
You see, alcohol can hurt your body in a lot of ways. It can damage your DNA, your proteins and cells. It can increase inflammation. It can alter your hormone levels. It can even increase your ability to absorb carcinogens or cancer-causing agents. And do you know what happens next? Your life can shorten by up to 15 years. And you are at a greater risk of developing not 1, not 2, but at least 7 different types of cancer. If these alcohol factoids are hard to digest, we do not blame you. For as long as humans have been drinking alcohol, we wanted to believe its health benefits. In ancient China, rice wine was used as medicine. In ancient Greece, Hippocrates advocated alcohol for the mind, body, and soul. In the modern world, binge drinking may get a bad rep, but moderate drinking has been considered okay, if not good. Look at red wine. 2 decades back, studies were raving about it, talking about its heart benefits. People even said that 1 drink a day is safe for pregnant women. But guess what? A lot of these studies were funded by the alcohol industry. Their commercial interests muddied the data. They showed the benefits of drinking, but such research has long been debunked. Now we know that there is no safe level of drinking, no benefits outweigh the harm, and it does not matter whether you drink from a $4 bottle or from a $400 bottle. No matter the form, alcohol is harmful. And the more you drink, the more harmful it is. But Dr. Murthy's advisory is not the first to report this or to talk about the link between alcohol and cancer. Yet, only a quarter of the world's countries mandate health warnings on alcohol. And often the language is vague. And cancer warnings are rare. Like in India, warnings usually say consumption of alcohol is injurious to health. In the US, they warn about birth defects. So far, only South Korea has labels warning about cancer, and that too only liver cancer. These steps are helpful, but they're barely enough. As per surveys, 93% adults are aware of cancer risks of tobacco, as compared to only 39% for alcohol. Because government policies are falling behind, we need health warnings on alcohol labels, restrictions on marketing and advertising, greater awareness to the risks of drinking, and we need them yesterday. But until nations catch up, we can do our bit as well. So how much alcohol should you drink? Health guidelines say women should not consume more than 1 drink a day and men not more than 2. But experts warn that these guidelines must be revised. Many of them say they have no more than 2 drinks in a week. And remember, it's not easy to calculate individual odds of risks. A lot of factors come into play, like family history, weight, and smoking habits. So ideally, stop drinking alcohol, but if you cannot, cut back to the bare minimum. This may be hard to swallow, but alcohol is toxic. So in the spirit of a new year, know that drinking less should not be reserved just for January. We started our show with the story of the virus, how it's not a new disease, how it's spreading in China. India too has recorded a few cases. There is no need to panic yet, but the internet is already having a déjà vu. Think work from home, TikTok dances, Dalgona coffee, and stocking up on toilet paper. The internet is asking, is this a repeat of 2020? Take a look. Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Syria, rebels toppled the largest statue of Bashar al-Assad's father, Hafiz al-Assad. In India's Kaziranga, 2 women fall out of a speeding jeep in front of rhinos during a safari. And a bluefin tuna as big as a bike was sold in Tokyo for $1.3 million. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1838, Samuel Morse unveiled the telegraph. It was a device which used electric impulses to transmit messages over a wire. This revolutionized long-distance communication. It led to further technological advancements, including the invention of the telephone. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
por gol.
On the show today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
We start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. For the first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital.